now. So welcome everybody. I am Barbara Carr with Fuse Empire, and today we are doing the Barbara Talks Business podcast segment. It is every Tuesday at 2 p.m. I am bringing you some awesome experts in different industries that can all serve you in your business. So if you are looking to grow your business this year, you'll want to mark your calendar for Tuesdays at 2 for the Barbara Talks Business podcast. Today, I have a guest who is in the real estate industry, and I will introduce her in just a moment. But I want to first encourage you that if you are watching this, we do take live questions. So if you have questions as we go, post them in the comments on Facebook. We're live both on Facebook and also on YouTube. I'm only watching the Facebook feed. So if you have a question, make sure that you come over to the Facebook group. You will search for that by typing in tools, tips, and training to grow your business. It is a group you'll ask to join. You'll answer the 2 questions that it asks, and then you'll be able to see the videos and ask questions. So let me introduce my awesome guest today. I am just so pleased with meeting Patrice this year. She and I actually haven't known each other for very long, but every experience I've had with Patrice, whether directly or through other people, has just been phenomenal. So I knew that she had to be on this show to share with you guys some of the awesome things that she's doing and that her company's doing, and some things that you guys could be doing to grow your business as well. Okay, so let me get right to it. Patrice has had the pleasure of living and bringing up her family in DuPage and Kane Counties. She was drawn to the area for the outstanding restaurants, fabulous schools, and close-knit communities. Patrice has always been fascinated with real estate. Her and her husband, Frank, purchased their first home in 1988 in DuPage County. As their family grew, they moved to a neighboring community in 1992. And then in 2002, her family continued to grow. Super exciting. And they moved to Kane County and built a home and settled there for a while their 4 children went to school in the outstanding school system that they had there. And then her baby went to his senior year of high school. And after much research, education, training, and a lot of faith, Patrice purchased her first investment property. I could still remember the excitement of when we purchased our first investment property. Patrice was hooked at this time. And about 4 months later, her and her daughter Amanda decided to buy an investment property together, and that is what solidified her decision to become a realtor and an investor. The decision was easy for her, as she wants to help people accomplish their real estate goals, whether it meant buying their first house or selling their property or looking for investment opportunities, or even just helping people to downsize. All of those things can be very scary and very daunting. So it's really important to have somebody who you trust to walk you through these processes. And then on Patrice's days off, she enjoys riding her motorcycle and spending time with her family and friends. That last line is one of the things that amused me the most about Patrice. She's already this fascinating woman, and then I find out she's a biker, and I'm like, what? Now, I will tell you, I'm a rider, not a driver, right? I will ride on the back of a motorcycle, but I will not drive one of those things. So with that said, you guys help me to welcome the wonderful, wonderful Patrice Boenzi. Patrice, go ahead and tell us a little bit more outside of what I shared in your professional bio. Tell us more about who Patrice is as a person.
Okay, thank you, Barbara, for the nice introduction. You made me laugh. I was a passenger on a motorcycle too. I love to be a passenger, but my husband listens to terrible music. And when we would take long trips, it was torture. So I decided to get my license. I used to teach the motorcycle safety course for 7 years, and that was always exciting. But there's some words that I use to describe myself that aren't normal for when you hear what I used to do. But I'll tell you that in a little bit. I'm passionate. I'm an out-of-the-box thinker. I'm a problem solver, and I hate to lose. So I'm a little bit of a bulldog, especially with negotiations, real estate. I like to get things done. I am a wife. My husband and I will be married 32 years this December. We met in high school.
Congratulations.
I do believe in love at first sight because I saw him and I'm like, I'm going to marry him. We have 4 children. I'm happy to say they are all adults now. 2 of them are married, and they all live outside of my home. So that's exciting, starting to get them off the payroll a little bit. And I have always wanted my own business. Even when I was a stay-at-home mom in the beginning, and I always wanted to provide. It's just in me. So I did medical transcription for a while, to try to do a balloon business that I had no idea what I was doing, so it wasn't very successful. Started a vending business in the park when my kids played football. So I've always had that itch. So I'm thrilled to finally be at the age when I can have my own business and do what I want.
That's fantastic, Patrice. And I know that your company has some really high morals as well. I did some research on your company, and from what I found, they are all about helping their agents build the lives that they are wanting. So each agent is different, and I know your company really encompasses working specifically with helping you build that lifestyle. And we'll talk more about your company here in a moment, but I want to give the people a teaser about what to expect on today's call. Patrice, as you just heard in those little bit of information about who she is, has so much experience and so much knowledge in a lot of different areas that you would be surprised by. You're like, wait, she did what? So today, here's a couple of the topics we're going to talk about, and we'll see what else we get into. But make sure that if you have questions that you're putting them in the comments so that Patrice can answer those. We're going to talk about real estate investing and ABCs of downsizing, how important it is to support your community. Patrice has some current NAR statistics today. She's going to share with us what her company is doing about COVID right now during COVID. And then she's going to share with you guys something really interesting that you should be doing in your homes that you're probably already doing for your businesses, but you're not doing for your home. So you want to stick around to hear that, because this is like your jaw's going to drop when she tells you this little secret, and you're going to be like, boy, I wish I would have thought of that myself. But that's okay. Patrice thought of it for you, and she's going to share that with you today. So Patrice, before we go on to these different topics, tell us a little bit about Fathom Realty that you represent and why you chose this particular agency out of all the ones out there. What's so great about them?
I chose Fathom because I did my research, and it was my first decision as a business owner. I had to pick where to hang your license. When you're a real estate agent, you have to put it somewhere. You can't just be out on your own. Originally, I was drawn because of their almost non-existent fees and splits. I didn't want all my hard-earned money going to my brokerage. I wanted to grow my business. That's why I'm in business. Coming out of my past life job, I did like that. You alluded to it. They're servant leadership. So Fathom was created because our CEO, CFO had determined that brokerages just take way too much money from their hard-earned agents. And they wanted to have a different model, and they wanted to talk about how we can serve our agents. So non-existent fees are almost right there. They provide us, we have options for healthcare if we need healthcare. We are right now privately held. We're getting ready to go public, so there's stock options, but they give so much value for the low fees that I pay. I get a CRM that's amazing. That would be very expensive if I paid for it myself. They post, they offer new agents 1 year of posting free on social media. They do business cards. A lot of brokerages do that, but they are totally always looking for ways to help us grow our business and save us money. And I will say that hands down about them.
That's awesome, Patrice. Thank you for sharing that. And I also want to say, for anybody who's out there watching, most of us know 3 to 5 realtors, right? Most people in this world, you know 3 to 5 realtors, probably in your close network, family, friends, things like that. And so sometimes it's really hard for you to choose one out of those 3 to 5, or how do you know who's the best one? Now, Patrice, I'm not going to ask you to tell us specifically why you're the best, because I know that's hard for some people, but I'm going to share with my audience why I think you're fantastic. And if they don't have a realtor they're already using, that why you should be that person. Now, again, I told you I've known Patrice a short time, and she and I have dealt with each other here and there. And one of the things that I really have noticed about Patrice is that Patrice genuinely cares about the people she's working with. She genuinely cares about her community, and she goes above and beyond to help people, even if they can't help her back. Okay, like it's very rare to see a personality like Patrice, and I know that she takes very good care of the people that she works with. And Patrice, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, but that is definitely my model. I lead with value. I never chase a commission check. There's times when, I mean, I make my living based upon commission. Everyone knows that. Realtors are commission paid. But there's sometimes a family gets in a situation where they just can't pay. And in those situations, I like to jump in. I like to give back. It's all about paying it forward. I mean, everyone hits rough spots, rough spots, but sometimes we just need a hand up. Now, obviously I can't do that with every client, but when a situation comes across my desk, I try to help in any way I can. And I love that. And that again goes to, Fathom's model, just servant leadership, lead with value, serve.
Yep. I love when you have the same values as the company that you work for and you're able to share those values. One of the other things I notice about you, Patrice, is that you are actually walking the walk, not just talking the talk. So you help people buy, sell, and invest in real estate. There are a lot of people out there who will say the same thing, but they've never bought a property themselves. They've never sold a property of their own, right? They have never invested in anything themselves. And so how can you really be the best option if you've not done those things? I'm not saying that somebody can't be great at what they do if they've not done that, but you've done everything that you help people do in your own life. So you know the process, what it's like to be on the other end. And I think that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm an active investor. It's something that was a dream of mine. We flip houses. I have several rentals now. And as much as I love getting my rent checks, I don't want my tenants always, the same ones at least, always pay off my mortgage. So when I hear someone renting, I like to help them be able to buy. And I have a great team of people from lenders to attorneys to be able to help you do that. But even with my tenants, my husband and I, hands down, we would never rent something we wouldn't live in. And we want to respect our tenants, and we want them, when there's something wrong, we're on it. Like, it's got to be fixed. I just try to walk it out. Like you said, I've been duped so many times. At my age, I've been duped a lot of promises, right? And then they're just words, and your yes has to be yes and your no has to be no.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so we have a comment here by Felice. She says, I do know many realtors, but trust is the reason why a realtor will get my business. And Patrice is amazing and goes above and beyond with her clients. I highly recommend Patrice. So thank you, Felice, for that. Dave Dewar asked, are you a selling agent, a buying agent, or both?
That's a great question. When I was being mentored, that was part of our business plan. We get to decide what we want to do. Now, you always need buyers, because buyers obviously have the money and buy. But I set out early in my career to be a listing agent. So I have more listings than I do buyers. And it was just because as an investor, I bring a lot of value to the table, because I can walk into a property and say, okay, we can change these couple of things and increase your price. Nice. Or I can walk into a property and say, oh, there's no way you can fix this up to demand the price you want. It would be better if we sell it at a fair price for the condition. And then it would actually save you money, because then you're not having holding cost mortgage taxes, because taxes are paid in the rears. So selling agent, I'm more of a selling agent than a buyer's agent, but I do work with buyers.
Okay, good to know. All right, now, Patrice, tell us what your company is doing in the midst of COVID right now. With everything going on, what are you guys doing differently to help your buyers and sellers?
Well, our company owns the 3D Matterport camera. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That is, when you go online, you can actually see you can walk through the property by touching the little circles, and it takes you in the room, or you can see the layout. So we do that for our listings. We are encouraging obviously all buyers, if they're not feeling well, and this is industry standards, right? If you're not feeling good, please don't come in the house. Please wear masks. We provide booties. Please don't touch anything you don't have to. I tell my sellers to open up all the cabinets, the pantry door, any door that a buyer would want to look in, open it up before you leave, turn on all the lights so no one's touching your light switches. And then when you come back home, take some sanitizer and wipe down the doorknobs. And no one should be using restrooms anyway when you're showing, but wipe the seats just in case there were kids. No more than 4 people. We're trying to keep it down to 4 people in the property and not have like the whole family come. If possible, just the buyers. Open houses, we are trying to limit the number of people in the property at a time, according to our recommendations by our industry. So there are things that we're doing, but I will tell you the market is hot. COVID or not COVID, it is hot, hot, hot.
It is, I know here where I am, I'm in Indiana, I know you're in Illinois. Here where I am, there are houses selling like within 12 hours. And in fact, I know somebody who got access to a house and put a contract on it before it even went on the market. And it's just crazy that you're right. It is a hot market right now, especially for sellers, right? Like if you've been talking about listing your house, is it a good time right now, Patrice, to do that?
Here's the thing. I always say it's always a good time because here's why. Markets can change in a heartbeat. It can turn from a seller's market to a buyer's market really literally overnight. So, and you have no idea what your house is going to be worth next year. And it's a gamble, it's a risk, right? Because there's so many factors, economy, seller motivation. You might have a life change that you don't know is coming. And then all of a sudden you need to get out fast and you can't prepare your home. So you're not going to make as much money. So if you want to sell, it's always, people buy real estate in good times and bad times.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Patrice, because that's actually what I was just thinking about. I have gone to a few real estate investing workshops. My husband and I are newbies at real estate. He's done a few fix and flips before I have at investing. And then so I went to some investing workshops to learn a little bit more about it so that I could help him in the investing side of our lives. And one of the things that really stuck out to me is that real estate is always good, right? So that you buy different types of things in different markets, right? But it's always a good time to buy real estate. You just need to know what your goals are. And that's one of the cool things about real estate and investing is that you are able to have the upper hand no matter what the market is. You just have to know how the way they described it is play the game, right? Like you've got to know when to buy, when to rent, when to sell, like you've got to be on top of all of this stuff. What can you add to that?
Most people think they make money when they sell their real estate, but I'm going to challenge that, especially as an investor. Even as a regular homeowner, you make your money when you buy it. Because the only thing you are in control of is how much you spend for that property. And you know what the market is now, right? So you make your money when you buy because you can't guarantee what it's going to look like when you sell.
Okay, right. That makes sense. That is true. Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I have another question. Did you have more to add to that, or do you want me to go on? Okay. So the question is, have you personally and or with clients utilized self-directed IRAs and a tax-free Roth IRA to buy investment property?
That I have not done yet because my husband, if you're familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he's the poor dad. He works for the government and he has a very conservative mindset. I am not so much like that. So in order to get my husband on board with the investing part, took me 6 years, took a lot of classes, took a lot of making him listen to podcasts. He felt more comfortable in our first couple flips to live in them because it lessened our risk. So we actually bought them and we utilized a 3.5 down because we were living in it, which was better. If you invest in a second property, single family homes, you have to have 20% down. Multifamily 25% down. So we were able to get in at 3.5%. That was good for him because there was hardly any money risk.
Yes. See, I think for us, we're the opposite. My husband is like, hey, let's just throw everything into it. And I'm like, wait. He's definitely more comfortable with risk than I am, and we balance each other out, I think, because then there's other times when I'm like, I don't think we should do that, and then he'll explain to me how, yes, there's a little bit of risk, but in everything you do, there's risk, right? Even if it doesn't have to do with money, everything we do, there's risk somehow. But so it's really neat that we balance each other out, and I like the way that you and your husband kind of have that same dynamic of one of you is like, let's go for it, and the other one's like, what?
He doesn't like to touch our retirement fund. And before I got into real estate, I was an associate pastor. I'm a credentialed minister. So I was a children's pastor for a couple of years and then an executive pastor. And I have a ministry idea that I need a fund. So that's why I got into real estate investing, because I always loved it. But we made an agreement, my husband and I, it's part of our investor personality, not to touch our retirement. So we leveraged our equity. We sold our first family house, pulled all the equity, and that's how we did our first flip. And that's our agreement. I had to figure that out. Now, as we're growing, we have multiple properties now. And now we'll be looking into 1031 exchanges and portfolio lending because we're getting to that point.
Yeah.
But the retirement fund is risky. It's definitely risky because if it doesn't go well, then how do you retire?
Yeah, good. And actually, anybody who might be watching this, the person who asked that question was Dave Dewar, and he actually could help you with that as well. Put Dave and Patrice together, and you probably can get some great stuff going. You can watch his podcast on the YouTube channel. All right, Patrice, let's move on to the next question. You mentioned you have some NAR statistics. So first, tell us what NAR stands for in case somebody watching doesn't know, and then share those statistics with us.
Sure. NAR stands for National Association of Realtors, and they just came out with the May report. Reports come out on the 20th of each month, so all the reports are delayed, obviously. But the good news is the pending home sales are up 44.3% in May. So what does that mean? That means that homes that were listed for sale have contracts on them. They're under contract, they're pending. Now, the Chicago metro area closed sales in May are down by 37.3%, which I think is interesting. The median in Chicago now, the Chicago metro area, the median sale price is up 2%. Inventory is down 24.8%. So that makes it more of a seller's market, right? So how to determine whether you're a seller market or a buyer market? 0 to 3 months, you're a seller's market. If you have inventory for 0 to 3 months. 3 to 6 months, you're in a normal market, normal balance. Anything over 6 months of inventory, you're in a buyer's market. And then the days on market are up 7.9%. And that is the Chicago metro area. I do feel that COVID has played into a lot of those numbers because we're getting so much information and sometimes it's conflicting information. So, but we are predicted to have a fourth quarter, like a bang out fourth quarter. That's what the experts are predicting, that when everything calms down, our fourth quarter is going to be amazing.
So that's exciting to hear because it's already seems to be getting better, right? And to hear that the next part of this is going to be even better, that's exciting. Thank you for bringing us good news, Patrice. Moving on to some good news, some more good news. I want to talk to the group about what you're doing in the community. I know that when you and I first met, you were launching an opportunity for people to help the community, and you were heading this thing almost by yourself. It was really impressive. Tell us if you're still doing that, and tell us what it is and how we can help.
Okay, when COVID happened, and realtors in Illinois were always considered essential employees. So we were all able to work. However, things slowed down at the beginning, right? Because nobody knew anything, and then our restaurants closed. And I have a friend who owns, it's the Pie Boss out of Aurora, Montgomery, Aurora, who does South African meat pies. Very, very close friend of mine. And I was talking to him about how COVID was impacting his business. And then I know some servers and got talking to them. And my thought process is, I don't care what's going on in the world. I can still be proactive and I can still figure out how to help people. So maybe I'm not listing houses, except I've had the best year ever that I've ever had. I've just been super busy. But in the meantime, I'm hearing all these people, how are they going to pay their bills? How are they going to do that? And I started thinking, and when I was in the church setting, we had a benevolence policy, obviously, for congregation members who had fallen on hard times. And I thought to myself, what if we take that concept and do a GoFundMe to help earn money and help some of the laid off workers in the restaurants pay their rent? And the bigger thing besides rent is because there's an eviction ban, if you will. Landlords can't evict their tenants during the COVID. But the bigger problem was that if you have a laid off employee, they still have to pay their monthly medical cost for medical insurance. So we wanted to raise money to help them and raise money to help the restaurants drive business to their restaurants by providing maybe like promotional, buy one, get one free, and we would pay for the free one. Now we launched it. It took a little time to launch. I did partner with Brandon Ayers from VLK Law Firm out in St. Charles, and he set up the nonprofit, and then we launched it. And then about 3 weeks after we launched, all the restaurants started opening up for patios. So we were able to raise a little bit of money, obviously not the grandiose goal that I had, but that's my personality. So we are in the process of handing that money out to local restaurants, what we raised, and we'll probably be shutting it down now that things are opening. But I had to try. I didn't care if I failed or not. I just needed to try to do something because people were going to lose their homes. They're behind in rent. Yeah, you can't evict them, but you still owe your landlord all that money.
Right.
That's a scary thing.
Yeah, a lot of times I've noticed when people get behind even 1 month on anything, not even just their mortgage, but just on anything, it's like a domino effect. You just keep getting behind and behind. It's really hard to catch up once you're behind. So you're right, that is scary. Okay, so Patrice, earlier you mentioned that you had a ministry that you need to fund, which is one of the reasons that you are doing real estate. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I could. I really haven't shared this publicly. So this is like new for you. Like, I'm going to put it out there. Okay.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Barbara Carr, Fuse Empire. So when I was in ministry, I loved connecting people with the church. Loved it. I loved outreach. I loved doing that. I loved being out in the community. That's always been my bend, if you will. And I alluded to that I taught motorcycle safety courses. So again, I'm not really how do I say this? I take what I know and I use it to do what I want to do. I'm not really a dreamer in the sense where I'll come up with a whole new idea that's just my idea. I just take parts and put them together and use them. Why reinvent the wheel? But anyway, I took the concept of the motorcycle class. The motorcycle class was a weekend class, started at 6 o'clock on Friday, all day Saturday and all day Sunday. By the time you were done, you knew how to ride a motorcycle. It was $20, and at the end of the weekend, you could ask for your $20 back. It was developed for people who never have been on a motorcycle or had any training. So I'm like, what if I take that concept and create a weekend for someone to explore Christianity? Because some of our churches, and I feel bad saying this, but some of our churches aren't very open to having outsiders, right? So where does someone who wants to explore Christ come to hear about Christ in a non-threatening, non-pushy way? And I thought, heck, I could do a weekend. I could, I want to rent a resort. I want to have something. I want to have fun stuff. I want to have life coaches on hand. And I want to partner with local area churches that once we do the weekend, if they would like to continue discipleship or to find out more, that I would plug them in with churches. So that's the dream, but I want to finance it. I just want to finance it. I don't want the vision to be tweaked in the way where it doesn't look like it's what it started at. So in order to do that, I have to finance it. And that's why I have rentals.
Okay. Now, Patrice, if anybody's watching this and they feel compelled to help you reach that goal, to be able to do that, what is a way that they could help?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, prayer and connections. If they have an idea of a venue, because it has to be appealing, right? It has to be something fun. I'm not going to put someone in just a conference room, and it has to be fun. There has to be downtime. There has to be things for people to do. Like on the motorcycle program, we got breaks, we got to talk, we got to chill. It's not supposed to just be down your throat. It's supposed to be more very laid back, conversational, if you will. I can't debate the word with someone if they don't believe the word is the word of God, it's hard to have a conversation. However, no one can argue with my experience with Christ and what he's done in my life, hands down. So I get to share that. And he's been very active in my life. And I don't want to get emotional, but I can tell you time and time and time again where it looked impossible and he came through.
Patrice, thank you so much for sharing that. I will tell you that most of my viewers are faith-based, and that's one of the things that I openly talk about on my show. Would you mind sharing a bit of your story about how Christ has been there for you?
I will. I will share my health story with you because I think it's amazing, and I'm here because of the grace of God. So a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, actually, last month, I just celebrated 5 years of being cancer-free. But let me back up. So I was getting out of the shower and I was drying my leg, and my husband looks at me and said, "The mole on your leg looks like it's gotten bigger." And I said, "No." I said, "It's always been like that. No one's ever said anything to me about it, anything like that." And I just went about my day. Didn't think anything of it. About 2 days later, drying my leg in the bathroom by myself. And I don't know how to explain it without sounding, it's going to sound weird, but this is my experience. I heard a voice, but I didn't hear a voice. It was like in your head, kind of like wind, if you will, that says, "You need to call the doctor now." That's what I heard. So I listened to that. I know enough about hearing like the voice of God and God leading me. So I'm like, okay, that I wasn't even thinking about it. So I got on the phone and the doctor couldn't get me in for 2 weeks. And I remember saying to God, "Okay, I listened to you. I have an appointment in 2 weeks." And I didn't think anything of it. I wasn't worried about it. I didn't faze me. I'm not exaggerating. 3 days later, I was drawing that same leg again. And I heard that same voice and says, "You don't have 2 weeks." And then I panicked. I went into a full-blown panic attack because I knew that wasn't my voice. I wasn't even thinking of it. So I remember driving to the church. And as I was driving to the church, I called the doctor 9 times. 9 times to get through. I counted them. And I just said to them, "By any chance is there a cancellation? I have an appointment." And she says, "As a matter of fact, the doctor can get you in tomorrow." So I'm like, okay. But by this time now, I was worried. I would love to tell you I was faith-filled, but I wasn't. I was worried because I knew in my heart of hearts. So I went to the doctor. She looked at it and she looked at me. She said, "You should be very worried." She said, "If this was a normal mole, you should be very, very worried." I'm like, okay, well, thank you. I was already worried. So it was in a place where she had to have longer time. So she made me come back a couple days later to remove it. I waited 6 days for the biopsy. And I knew in my heart that the report was going to be negative, but I knew I was going to be okay. I knew I was going to live. I didn't think I was going to die. And then I got the phone call from the doctor and she said, "I have the best bad news I can give you." She said it was melanoma, but it was so very thin and we caught it just in time. She said, "If you would have waited any longer, it would have went down into the tissue." She goes, "It's so thin, you don't need chemotherapy, you don't need radiation, you need nothing. We just need to expand the margins." So it's been time and time again that God has done those things for me and my family. And like I said, I wasn't even thinking about it. And he caught my attention and spared my life. So.
Wow. Patrice, that's an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah, it is amazing what happens when we obey God, right? When he says something and I actually have been recently dealing with my own perception of, is this my will or God's will? Right? Like, am I doing this because this is what Barbara wants or this is where God wants? And I've been recently taking a lot of time, asking him and listening. And sometimes it's really hard for me, I'll admit, to just sit and listen for the answer after I ask him for something or I request something. I just want to go on to the next thing and not listen for the answer. But when you do hear the answer and you obey, it's amazing. The miracles and stuff that could happen. Patrice, I am glad that you listened to that voice that you heard and that you are now cancer free. That's amazing.
Yeah, hands down. It's interesting because when I left the church, it took me so long because our church went through some difficulties and there was a decline. And I felt like I was letting God down in a sense, right? Because I wanted to do something else, but he put the something else in my heart. And I remember we had, I won't get into the gory details, but anyway, we lost our building that was paid for. I was not a realtor at the time. It was just something that happened. And I remember sitting in my office. I was the only one left at the church. All the other associate pastors have left. And I remember looking outside, watching all the kids play outside. I'm like, God, why am I in here and all the people are out there? Like, shouldn't I be out there with all the people? And I can tell you it was a big step of faith to leave the church salary job to go be an independent contractor, commission employee. But I have done more ministry in the last couple of years than I had at the church in a long time. And I know that sounds terrible, but that's the truth.
Yeah, no, sometimes God leads us to minister in places we would not have expected, right? Mm-hmm. Just like when he was going for his disciples, he chose people that we would not have expected.
Exactly.
Okay, so Patrice, I just want to share with you that the chat there are people loving your story here. There's hearts going up. So when we're done, make sure you go in and view some of these things that people are saying to you and about you here. It's just lovely to read them all. But, and I want to just tell those of you who are still watching that if you have questions, it's not too late to ask questions for Patrice on anything we've talked about or even things we haven't. Like I said, she's an expert in real estate and investing, motorcycles, Christianity and obeying God, and a lot of other things as you're learning as we continue to go. So feel free to ask your questions. I've got a few more things I want to talk to Patrice about, and then we'll wrap up. So ask your questions now if you have them. Okay, so Patrice, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about as well is the ABCs of downsizing, because I know that that's one of your specialties. And I know that there are a lot of people in this life right now that are in a position that it's time for them to downsize, and maybe they don't even realize that it's time yet. But tell us a little bit about that.
Again, it was down in a downtime. Last year was not the year that I wanted in real estate. I had goals and it was a little bit short of my goals, but as I focus on my business, I went and got my senior real estate specialist designation because my mom is 80. She'll be 80 on Saturday. I helped her downsize. A lot of our team, there's 5 of us on a team. The Boenzi Liner Group consists of 5 agents, and we all have different specialties. But we all love our seniors, and our seniors are at risk in the sense of being taken advantage of, especially by investors. So I wanted to protect them because a lot of the seniors, their money is tied up in their house, and whatever you can get for them out of their house is what they're going to live on for most of the remaining parts of their life, right? And what people, everyone wants to be a specialist. I can work with an investor, I can work with a downsizer, but there's training that needs to go in with that. Like if you help a senior sell their house and they're on a certain kind of insurance program, that could affect their ability to have insurance because now they have capital gains. You have to be very careful on how you manage them, make sure they understand the contract, make sure that you have all the people that can help them. So what we do is our team does the ABCs of downsizing, and we go into park districts and libraries and we do seminars. And we have the kit and caboodle. We're one-stop shop. So we bring our attorney with us because a lot of times there's like power of attorney questions and trust questions. We work with a professional stager. We work with a woman who actually works with the senior communities, and she gets paid from the senior community to place people. It's almost like a realtor for senior communities, but she knows them in and out, and she'll do like an assessment with the client and find out which senior community would work best with them. So we go in together and we all work the seminars, and now we're doing them on Zoom. And what's great is that any preferred partner that works with us on the ABCs of downsizing has to give our people a discount or a promotion. Hands down, we're not fleecing our seniors, not having it. And now that, in the investor world, I have another team member that invests, but we have a list of investors now that will go in and buy those properties at a fair price. I get it, as an investor, you have to get it at a right price. But you can pay a fair price and still make money. I've done it. So, so we have that connection, and we just love that. We love bringing them lunch. We love sending them little gifts in the mail. And we just love walking them through the process and try to protect them.
So Patrice, are these seminars open to anybody who would like to attend them?
Anyone. And if there's listeners that aren't in our park districts or don't want to wait, we can do one-on-one. We can take you through the program one-on-one. We're happy to do that. We could do it via Zoom. We're still very careful with our seniors. They're still at risk. COVID is still a thing. Without getting into whether you believe it or not, people are getting sick, and they, you know what I mean? So we have to protect our elderly, but we do it by Zoom. And we always encourage them to have a family member with them, obviously.
Okay. So what are some of the reasons why people decide to downsize?
Usually life change, whether it's a medical issue and they can't walk the stairs, or when a spouse dies and the house is too big, or there's too many memories. They just don't want to be in the cold anymore. So they want to be snowbirds, and they rather have something smaller and then go live in Florida and then come back to Illinois. We've seen that, but most of the time it's health reason or a loss of a spouse or medical. Now we do try to go in, and if the client really wants to age in place, then we work with Ardent Care out of Bloomingdale, and they come in and they can assess how to help a client stay in the house. We always do what's best for the client, right? You have to do what's best for the client. And sometimes it's hard for people, emotionally, it's hard for people to get rid of their house because there's so many memories there.
Probably the longer they've been there, the harder it is.
It is, and we cry with the clients. I mean, I just helped a little old lady out in Elgin, absolutely adorable. She used to walk by the house she lived in as a child, and told her friend that one day she was going to sit on that porch on the swing because she loved the porch. Then she met a man in Elgin. They got married, and the house became for sale on the market, became available, and he bought it for her. And they lived there 50 years. And he would tease her that that was the most expensive dishwasher he ever bought, because it had a dishwasher, and a dishwasher wasn't a thing back then. It was like a specialty. It was very hard for her to let that house go. A lot of memories.
Oh, that's a sweet, sweet story.
Yeah.
So Patrice, how would somebody be able to tell if their home no longer works for them? Like if they're like, well, my kids have all moved out years ago, and we're content, or whatever. What are some signs that where they may not even be realizing, but maybe it's time to downsize?
Finances. When you're paying taxes on a bigger property than you need, or upkeep, there's a lot of things that start needing work and you just can't afford it, or you can't care for it. Can you care for the lawn? Can you take care of the snow? Can you take care of your gardens? How hard is it to get in and out of the shower? Where are your bathrooms? Do you have to go upstairs to the bathroom? Is there one on the main floor? Are the doors wide enough if you have a walker, if you're in a wheelchair? How accessible is the kitchen appliances? Can you reach them? Are you having a hard time standing by your stove? Daily living activities of daily living. Do you need someone to cook for you? Do you need help? Things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so besides a realtor, who are some other people that we should be considering to have on our team if it's coming that time for us to buy, sell, downsize, invest, any of those things?
You definitely need an attorney. And your CPA. You're always going to want to start with your financial, because you want to see how that's going to impact your future investments, whatever you're getting. A junk specialist. We did this little slide in our presentation. Why are you downsizing? Here's the answer: because your kids don't want your junk. Hands down. That's probably the biggest thing. And then professional organizers can really help. They can definitely come in and help you take that emotional element away and sort of coach you through it. And I'm not talking about like the hoarding TV shows. This is just stuff like your kids' toys that you have great memories of. Like, what are you going to do with that? Like, are you really going to use that? Yeah. So it would definitely be an attorney, a junk guy, a CPA, and then a handyman, depending on what the house needs to get it ready to list.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Most people who's watching knows that my husband's an attorney in Indiana. Patrice, I know that you deal up in Illinois, DuPage County, Kane County, Will County, Lake County, all that. So if you're out there, feel free to reach out to Patrice. If you're in Indiana and you want information, you can still reach out to Patrice. Patrice has connections here in Indiana as well. And then actually, thank you for mentioning the organizer, Patrice, because we will have an organizer on the Barbara Talks Business Show in a couple of weeks. So it's really exciting that we'll be able to kind of like piggyback off. I'll even be able to refer back to you again on that. All right. And then what's the process of downsizing?
We always meet with the client first and assess the property and understand their goals and their timeline. When you're downsizing with someone who's elderly, you have to set the pace based upon what they feel comfortable with. But we always do an assessment. I always do a comparative market analysis. I look at the property. I try to figure out, do I sell it as is at the right price, a fair price, or are there little things that we could potentially do to increase the value? And then I give my clients options. I can, as is, I can sell it at this price. If we do A, B, and C, we could potentially sell it at this price. And then they get to decide. And then we come up with a strategy. What do we need to do to the home to make it show ready?
Okay.
And then I talk with my clients about safety, on how do they feel. Like some of my elderly people cannot leave the house. I'm not going to make them go out in the snow to let someone come in their property. But the caveat there is that they have to be able not to tell anything to the buyer or to the buyer's agent. They need to sit in the chair and be very quiet. Don't answer any questions. That's my job.
Okay.
But that's it. We get a strategy, and then once we get to the point, then we order the professional photography and we do our marketing strategy. Every house has a different strategy. I know we all put the houses in the MLS. I come up with a creative strategy for every house I list. I like to think so anyway. I do things differently for each house based upon who I think is going to buy it, and we target that market.
I have no doubt about that you have a personalized strategy for every house because that's who you are, Patrice. And like I said, even the short time I've known you, I know that about you already. We do have a question in the chat. How do we decide what to upgrade? Not sure what top improvements we should invest in. What is worth upgrading to sell the house?
That is a great question. The easy answer is kitchen and bathroom sell houses. However, if you have an older kitchen and older bathroom and you can't afford to update it, the cheapest thing you can do is declutter, clean, and paint. Fresh paint in neutral colors makes a world of difference.
Okay, that's awesome. Good to know. So this is your last chance for questions. If anyone has questions, Patrice, while they're writing in their last option for questions, can you share your contact information in case somebody would like to reach you?
Sure. My cell number is 630-234-7375. And my email is my name, Patrice, at patriceboenzi.com.
Awesome. And then what's your website address?
It's patrice.fathomrealty.com.
Perfect. Now, Patrice, I know that you mentioned that you have something that you can offer anybody who's viewing this podcast. Why don't you tell us about that?
For your listeners, Barbara, I want to give back because I love that you have great listeners, business owners. I am offering a $500 credit at close for anyone who uses my services because they heard me on your podcast. And all that they have to do is text me, #podcast, and I will keep a list of that, and then we will connect.
And which number do they text podcast to? #podcast?
630-234-7375.
Perfect. A $500 credit at close. That sounds pretty impressive. So
I'd like to give
explain what that means, Patrice. Does that mean that they pay $500 less than they would have otherwise?
Yes. So when we close, I give $500 of my commission back to them at the closing table. And it's all done legally through the statement, through the attorneys. Like
okay, now you guys, everyone who's watching that, if that doesn't show genuine care, I don't know what does, especially in a time of COVID when times are rough for most people. And Patrice is willing to give $500 of her own money, her own commission that she's working hard for, to you for being a listener right now. So make sure that you get to know Patrice. She's fantastic. As you've heard, I can't even tell you how great she is because she's, greater than the words I can describe. But if you don't know her yet, reach out to her, have a one-on-one with her. Even if you're not looking to buy, sell, or invest yet, still get to know Patrice because she's awesome. And you never know who you might know who could use Patrice's help, who really needs some help in these different areas. So Patrice, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that we have not covered?
Just one thing, Barbara. First of all, I am happy to answer any questions. I know people will say, I don't want to bother you. This is my job. I don't care if you're going to use me or not. You have a real estate question. I want to be your real estate resource, even for your question. So don't hesitate to reach out. And then I did want to talk to all our business owners that are listening right now, because I see this a lot. I just want to encourage them. As a business owner, we work really hard on maintaining our business, prospecting, doing all the things we need to do day in and day out. We work tirelessly on our business. But what I'm seeing is that a lot of business owners are so invested in their business that they're letting their house go. So when I go on a consult, they're like, oh, I'm a businesswoman, this and that. That's great. But what I'm seeing is they're not taking care of their house and they're not updating it at all. So they're leaving money on the table. As businesswomen or men, we like to make money. So I just want to encourage anyone listening, everyone should be doing at least an update, some kind of upgrade yearly to keep ahead of the curve. Because when you get so many things in your house that need to be upgraded, you leave a lot of money on the table. So that's what I want to leave your listeners with.
Thank you, Patrice. And I am so sorry to you and the listeners that was my most exciting part of this, that I was looking forward to it. I almost forgot it. So thank you for not forgetting it. But Patrice is right. Many of us are so focused on our business that we forget about our home, right? Or even sometimes our health or all these different things. But yes, our home. So that was a great tip you gave. If we can update one thing per year, that will help us not have to update 13 things when we go to sell it, right? So I appreciate that. In fact, actually, as we speak, our lower level of our house is being finished right now. So it's been unfinished for some time. It's being finished, and I am so excited about it. I have been asking my husband for a long time to do this, and we've made the move now. We're doing it. And so if you've been hearing banging and stuff like that as we've been talking, that's the reason why. There's a contractor down there doing some work, and I'm very blessed that contractor is actually my father-in-law, so we get to actually enjoy time together while he's here too. But thank you, Patrice, for that tip. And for those of you who were here, that was my favorite part. Everything was great what Patrice said, but I really wanted you guys to hear that part. You've got to pay attention to your home too. You can't be so focused on your business that you neglect your home, because it will come back and bite you down the road. So, all right, go ahead, Patrice.
I just wanted to thank you, Barbara, for the opportunity. It was a lot of fun. To be honest, I was nervous at the beginning, but this was a lot of fun. So thank you for the opportunity.
Good. I knew that I knew that you'd be fine, but you are so welcome. I'm so glad you were here. I know my listeners got value. Every part of your story was just as bit inspirational and touching. And I'm glad that I know you, Patrice.
Likewise.
All right. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you.